Good morning, everyone. Joining us live, I'm in San Diego, and we have Scott and Leyla in Scott's warehouse in Sacramento. Very grateful to have this very dynamic duo join us this morning, and definitely really appreciate your time. Scott is married to Leyla, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about DSI, Design Shop Interiors first, and Leyla and her business. So in less than 5 years, DSI has become a team of 10 women with 2 divisions specializing in construction, renovation, and home decor. She attributes DSI's success to the collaborative environment she's fostered and the team spirit that they embody. You can understand this vibe from Leyla if you follow her on Facebook. They're killing it in Sacramento, not just in Sacramento, whole Bay Area. And she has a really dynamic team. And she's very lucky that Scott, when I first met Scott and they first joined Ivy, I knew Scott was going to do big things and really help with the pain points that designers face. And here at Ivy, you know that that's our #1 goal, helping you not only with the administrative frustrations that you face on a daily basis, but also the pain points of your interior design business as a whole. Freight, delivery, shipping, receiving, logistics. We know that's a mouthful in itself. That is a huge pain point for you. And when I first met Scott in person, I knew he was destined to do great things. Just the way that he talked about the industry and he understood Leyla's business was remarkable. So although we all can't have a husband like Scott, we have him here to share his knowledge and a little bit about the company that he's just started, Right Way Receiving. He is obviously Leyla's husband, and Whitney, somebody who works at Design Shop Interiors, one of the lead designers, her husband, they joined together and founded Right Way Receiving in 2018. Prior to opening their doors, Scott led both operations and marketing for Design Shop Interiors since 2014. And during this time, Justin, who's Whitney's husband, was equally privy to the interior design community via his wife, Whitney. And definitely they have this really hands-on view that's super unique, and they understand the challenges and the opportunities, and have proven invaluable as they set out on their mission to advance and improve the receiving and delivery industry. Everybody hates those words, I know, but we're going to make it seem glamorous. And their business, first and foremost, is to provide a trusted, transparent, and efficient receiving and delivery service with an uncompromisingly high level of customer service on behalf of their clientele, interior designers, builders, manufacturers, and homeowners. They've built Right Way Receiving and Delivery, leveraging modern technology, which we love here at Ivy, and marketing vehicles that set out to address known industry challenges: transparency, communication, and brand image. And of course, if they're going to be going into your client's home, they want to represent the same professionalism that you as an interior designer embody when you enter your client's home. So I'm very grateful to introduce Scott and Leyla. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you much.
And thanks for being here. And I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. You're going to be able to ask Scott lots of questions, but of course I get to ask the questions first. And what will we be covering today? Receiving, inspection, and damages, the play-by-play, insider knowledge to help conversations with designers' clients, pricing models. Let's talk today about transparency, complexity, why is pricing so complicated, and the miss and aha moments. So Right Way Receiving brings a very unique perspective to the design industry, having worked so closely with DSI over the last 4 years. So what next? Let's hear how we can stop losing money on the R&D side of your business. So Scott, receiving, inspecting, and damages, the play-by-play. We want insider knowledge to help conversations with our designers' clients. During our preparation for today, we discussed that most clients don't understand the time that it actually takes to open a package and inspect it and make sure there's no damages. So can you share with us the process of what it looks like when the truck rolls up to your warehouse and up until the point that it's actually delivered to the client's home?
Timely you should ask that. My story on Instagram today was I pulled up to my warehouse and there was already 20 pieces sitting outside with a driver and a clipboard. Just saying. Come on, gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. That's the mentality of the freight industry, honestly. Each freight company has very different terms and conditions. You have to read the bill of lading exceptionally clear. It really boils down into just a couple of categories, like mirror and glass. You inspect on the spot. If they take off and your mirror is shattered, you're SOL, as they say, right? Mm-hmm. Very few freight companies actually have in the bill of lading that you should inspect everything right at that point in time. And
they don't let you.
And they don't let you for the most part. I don't like it. It takes a long time. So I had a delivery for a client, 59 pieces showed up. It took us about an hour just to get it off the truck. Okay. So
if I could
hold on one second. She's almost cutting me off.
I'm like, wait.
We're gonna have this battle. When you get your pricing from your receiver, you're gonna see a receiving and an inspecting fee. But to go back to what Reisa was asking about, the play-by-play, it's the offloading of the truck, inbounding it into your warehouse, unpacking it, repacking it, storing it, packing it on your truck. And for me to go pack my truck to go for a full install, that's 3 hours of work for two guys. Okay. Then you get to drive there, and then you're at the location, and then you're actually starting just the delivery process at that point. But all of those other things have already transpired in that small fee that we put for the receiving portion of the product itself.
Okay. This has been such like an education for us. As much as I like to pretend I know it all, I don't know it all. We had a receiver that we worked with for a really long time, and I'm grateful to her for all those years. And I too was one of the designers that every time I got my quote for whatever we're doing, I'm always like, why is it so expensive? And now I have a whole different perspective on this. There are so many pieces to the puzzle that require man hours that it's so much time, and somebody has to be paid for that time. And let's talk about the 6,000 square foot warehouse and the $1,000 in racks and the 26-foot truck and the trailer and the forklift and all of these things that set up of this business that I think as the designers we just don't get. Dining chairs. This was a really good conversation that he and I had, because I feel like every time, you buy 8, 10, 12 dining chairs, and I would get these quotes for dining chairs, and I'm like, why in the hell is it so expensive? And then
it's really intricate, and it depends upon the manufacturer. But we've received one. I have a short video of this as well. Each leg is individually wrapped in foam, and then with like a rope vinyl fabric around it. And you can't just cut it with a knife, because I'm going to cut your chair and then we're going to have bigger problems. So you actually have to sit there with a little scissor and trim it just to get it. And then you have to unwrap it. It's like a candy cane. And it's every leg of every chair. And
he told me, he goes, it took us 20 minutes just to unwrap one chair.
Yeah.
And it was just all these little things that went into the puzzle that I'm like, wow, I don't even think about this. I think about my furniture showing up in a box, and then I think about you bringing it to me. I don't think about you unloading the truck. And the delivery that he talked about with the 59 pieces at one time, it took them almost 3 days to inspect all of that. 2 guys. So I just think that there's so much that we as designers don't understand about this. And one of the things that I constantly see on Ivy, which I now find interesting, is, we're always complaining that people think we're too expensive and they want us to cut our prices and all of that. But then on the same token, I see people talking about receiving, and they literally want to pay $2 for it. And now that I see all these pieces to the puzzle, you get what you pay for. And part of the reason that this company even evolved is because we weren't getting what we were paying for, and my stuff wasn't properly getting inspected, and I wasn't happy with the whole process, and I don't feel like it operated at the level that Design Shop operates and what our clients expect and the service that I want to deliver. And so that's what he's done.
I also feel the industry itself is kind of outdated, quite frankly. So Reisa, you talked about technology. Everything that comes into our warehouse receives its own barcode. It's all mobile based. I can walk through my warehouse behind me, scan an item, and know what it is, who the client is, who's receiving it, the status of it. There's pictures. Everything that comes in, each asset has a picture of the bill of lading. Now we're starting to include boxes, pictures of boxes when they arrive. And all of this is by trial and error and learning. We have a wonderful client, Design Bar, up in Truckee, and she's awesome. And she's been great. We've been working because, hey, I'm learning this here, building the ship as we sail, so to speak. And it's been great because I get to sit down with the designers, with all of you, and figure this out. Like, I'm here to solve your pain points. And we're just doing that every day. We learn something new.
As do we, just in what this whole process looks like. What was really interesting, they were setting the business up, and then it was time to talk about trash, because one thing that we don't realize, when they deliver a 26 full of furniture, we don't see a single piece of trash. It just disappears off into the sunset, but they have to deliver it. And what did you say? It's like
our average install is about 275 to 300 pounds worth of trash.
Wow. That they then have to pay to go to the dump, and it's man hours, and it's dumping fees, and it's.
You just think about every time you move it, right? So you bring it in the warehouse, unpack it, repack it, and then there's also products included. So all the petroleum-based products, then you have China and the tariffs, so all that stuff is going up. But for me to unpack something, their stuff is likely going to get damaged, and by that I mean the packing product, and then we'll use our own. Most cases we'll just blanket wrap it. You can probably see over my shoulder we have some blanket wrapped items there, because it's more efficient. It's less that's going in the landfill, so on and so forth. But yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, and each time you move something, it's cost and it's time. And the two things I picked up is really time and trash.
There was a big aha moment for us, and this was kind of early on. This was actually one of our pieces. We had ordered a console table, and it had marble shelves, and I think there were 5 pieces of marble. He did a time-lapse video. I don't even think when I order that piece, how is it coming? It was coming in a wood crate, which great, because then it's less damage. He did a time-lapse video. It took 2 people 27 minutes to uncrate it, unwrap it, inspect it, rewrap it, crate it, and get it on the shelf. One piece, 27 minutes. So when we're questioning what all these fees are going to, that's what it has to pay somebody.
I think I shared that with you, Reisa. That's, when we were talking about pricing, and like, it's really hard. Like my mind is very analytical, and I want to say, okay, great, I'm going to create a web page, and you guys can come in and you can just plug in the different pieces, sizes, all the other requirements, and it's going to spit you out an estimate. But a console table, which is what that was categorized as, versus a regular, standard, typical console table, is a very different inspection process. Which is why in our order form we ask for things like weight and dimension, and I will Google everything that comes in. And I'm starting to get, and the sheer number of products, everything isn't the same as the other kind of mentality.
Oh, and like Wayfair, he's having some designers send him things from Wayfair. My God, those things, it's like IKEA. Those things can take 2 hours to assemble. It's just all these little pieces that I think as designers, we're so wrapped up in our world of make it look pretty that you're overlooking the steps that your team has to take to get there.
Wayfair. Go ahead, Reisa.
I think what's interesting is trying to stay. Echoing a little bit. I don't know how and why. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Trying to standardize the industry, right? That's kind of the challenge that we faced when we were building out Ivy, and every design firm runs their business differently. And like you said, your brain is very analytical. So I'm just thinking out loud in terms of designers. Now, it's one thing to understand the process, and even hearing you guys talk about the process, okay, so the designer understands it, but what's next? How do you relay that piece? There's twofold, and I've seen design firms run it 2 different ways. Of maybe would it be helpful for a designer to have a 1-pager, or maybe it would have to be 2 pages, explaining the process of what R&D really means, because designers' clients don't understand. They have no idea. And if designers have no idea, their clients are very in the dark. That clients obviously are hiring you because they don't even understand the construction process. So maybe it would be helpful in communications with your clients when you're handing over your contract and you're having them initial and sign in date of the receiving and delivery portion, of having that broken out into a 1-page process of like, this is the time it actually takes to get this. This is why you're going to see these charges. That's one idea. And then this conversation just came up the other day in the Facebook group of designers just lumping on an additional between 15 and 20% is what I saw fee for receiving, delivery, local delivery. But sometimes I feel like that might not even be high enough. And then what do? Then you have to add another layer onto your invoice. So how do you best recommend, now that, let's say, designers understand the process, how do you recommend communicating this with your clients if you're a designer?
Well, I think the one sheet idea, if you would, is a good one. And honestly, I send very detailed emails to the point where I apologize right up front of my apologies that this is going to be a really long email. I want you to have all the answers to make the best business decisions for yourself. And a lot of that is education that they can then share down to help them sell it into their client, because I understand that is a pain point. We're also building out, an infographic type style that talks about, here are all the things that go into the business itself. We're creating a prepared worksheet. So what to expect before install. Like yesterday when I showed up and the guy was power washing the driveway while I'm trying to walk on it, yeah, probably not such a good idea, because now I'm tracking that all the way into your house.
And that we already have something in our contract. So I think a lot of this falls on the designer setting expectations and understanding the business that you're in and educating your clients. Like, he can only do so much, but this is your business as a designer. You need to get your act together. So we have had it in our contract for a long time. But now with this view of things, we're actually going to elaborate on what is in there already. And we are now also, prior to our install, we're going to have like a one-pager that says, here are the conditions that we expect upon delivery. And because we do so much new construction, I'll give you an example, is they had a delivery for us several weeks ago. Honestly, the furniture shouldn't have been delivered, and I should have said no. They showed up. The concrete forms the whole front yard was dirt, and they had poured the concrete squares with all the stakes sticking up. They were almost breaking their necks.
Like American Ninja to
get in the house. And they couldn't wear booties. They wear booties and gloves, by the way. We can talk about that later. They couldn't put the booties on because they're carrying furniture, tracking in dirt. And, meanwhile, we had $1 million herringbone wood floors installed. And so now I'm able to say, okay, that should never happen again. And when he told me about his install the other day up in Truckee, and he's like, we got there and they're power washing the front yard. Okay, that designer needed to say, your furniture is being installed. These are the conditions that need to be met in order for them to do their job. Because it's dangerous for them. Like, if they fall and hurt themselves on a client property, like there's just a lot of layers to it.
Well, then you're spraying asphalt on your new couch and so forth.
Yeah.
And so you probably don't want to do that.
Yeah.
To your point about the pricing, and this might be unique to us, you can ask your receivers. This is something that was a pain point of ours and something I really wanted to address. That's the transparency aspect. 15 to 20%, maybe. I don't know what you guys are charging. What I can tell you is we deliver our estimates back to you, and they range the variations 5% at most. So it's pretty spot on, and we return that to you folks in 24 hours. So I think you're better off just taking a pause for the cause, coming back and you'll have the freight and you'll have the receiving, the inspection, the delivery, but based on all those variables that we talked about before, and I find myself delivering down to Los Altos in San Francisco. We're going up to Tahoe and Truckee on a regular basis. And we went up to Truckee this morning for a chair. It's not really cost effective, but they wanted a chair for Thanksgiving. So I hope he's very comfortable sitting in it. But all of these things, they're different price points. And not only do you have to price the product itself when you receive it and inspect it, but how are we actually transferring it to the end client's house?
Yeah.
So when we ask for dimensions of products, there's a reason. Are we using a pickup truck with an extended bed? We purchased an enclosed trailer, 16 feet. We have a 26-foot truck. So we tried to create an entire gamut, because what we were finding is just with the 26-foot truck, we weren't filling it. We do it for the big installs, but we have a sofa and a love seat and a coffee table. It's really expensive to operate. So we wanted to be able to provide our clients, you designers, with a variable price offering so we can flex our muscle and make it most effective and efficient for you.
Because the truck is like twice the cost. And for them to go up to Truckee with that big truck up the mountains, it takes twice the time it would in like a Ford F-150 with a trailer. So you're getting hit on multiple ends.
Interesting. And I think that that's really good for designers to understand that process of, like, yes, I remember back in the day when I used to work in an interior design firm and I was just learning this process, and getting everything shipped to a receiver, getting inspected, it's much more valuable. Don't send stuff to your client's home. Like, I don't ever do that, ever, even if it's from Wayfair, like, it doesn't matter. But like, yes, what do you do in the situations of one-off? So I think that that's a really good situation or solution to, okay, well, you can have your one chair. We understand it's not a full install. It's still going to be expensive, but this way you still have covered your bases. We're doing the unpacking, we're checking. But the big thing that I want to hit here, and the most important piece, I think, of hiring a receiver is because of damages. And I learned this the hard way. I'm sure everybody has, and I think somebody just asked a question about damages, which we'll get to your questions in a little bit. But in your opinion, why is the damage rate so high, and how are receivers able to mitigate this at a minimum to reduce the amount of time that designers themselves are spending on claims? Like, talk to us about this process.
Yes. Oh, wow. Where do I start?
Wait, something he might not know, because he'll speak to this part. Something that I learned, a lot of the stuff that we are buying is coming from China. So it is crossing the ocean in containers before it gets here. A lot of these companies, and I learned this a while ago, they are manufacturing the furniture with what they call green wood. So they're screwing, they're nailing, they're piecing it together in green wood that is not cured. Then in the shipment across the ocean, it's curing. And now those pieces are splintering where they're screws. So that's one step in the process that has nothing to do with our freight system. And then it gets here, and you can speak to this.
For the record, I did know that.
Because I told you.
Sure she did. Yes, so we found damage happens in various places. The amount of people that touch that product before it gets to me, and we consider ourselves, we're the finished team, right? We're the final crew, we're the last mile delivery point. We'll find that manufacturers hire a freight company. The freight company then hires a third party. That third party might hire another person. So it's gone through 3 freight companies before it even gets to our warehouse.
Each time being loaded and offloaded a truck.
You also have to understand the cost of freight and delivery. These guys try to jam as much stuff on their trucks as humanly possible. I have started taking pictures of the way in which it's actually stacked in their truck. I have very good relationships with all of our manufacturer reps. In fact, I'm speaking to the president of a trucking company today because I'm trying to find the solution. Like, I don't want damage. I mean, we open packages and me and Justin are like, oh, please God, no damage. Like, we don't want it.
I warned him when he went into this endeavor. I warned him. I said, the biggest challenge you are going to have is the damage. You are not going to believe what we deal with.
And we find that, you can see, we got a white table and there's a fingerprint in it. And like, okay, whoever packed this thing clearly didn't wash their hands. So now we're cleaning it. You'll find that some product comes and there's damage underneath the packaging. So we received a desk that had brass legs and it was scuffed up. The box was totally fine. The packaging underneath it was fine. So you know that it was packaged that way. And what we start to do is we take pictures throughout the entire process. We'll take a picture of the truck when it shows up. If the box shows up and the box has damage on it, we take pictures of the box. As we open it up, and this happened last Friday, we opened up this chair and we took a picture of the foam around the leg because the foam was all indented. And you peeled back the foam on the leg, and sure enough, underneath that was the damage to the leg itself. So now all of this is in our software. So our clients log in real time and they open up that asset, that chair, and they see the picture of the box, the picture of the bill of lading, the picture of the foam, and then eventually down to the damage. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion. And they take all of that information and then they share that with their manufacturer's rep.
Because we need all of that to go chase our damages. And I was finding, I love the way that he takes the photos, because I was finding we were getting like text photos from our receiver and, they're just in weird positions and far away. And I'm like, what am I even looking at? And half the time I would have to pay one of our designers to go down. So they're on the clock and I'm paying them to go look at damage, which is costing me money in the long run. And so he takes these like clear as day pictures and tells a story, and now we don't have to send people to the warehouse.
And this is so to your point about how do we save money for you folks, the designer, and saving time. It's by having all this into our system. As Leyla was saying, like, you don't have to reach out to me and we're playing email tag and phone tag. And you're not bothering me. I'm off bringing the next thing in the warehouse here. So we're both more efficient moving forward. And all of these things I'm learning as we go. So, one of the sofas we received, it was a sectional, the clips didn't work. It was bent, almost at a 45-degree angle. We, tried to repair it. We brought it on site and it didn't connect at the client's house. What we've learned now, we connect our sectionals in-house here before we take them to the client. So if we have to send a tech out from, Rowe or any other manufacturer, Lee, they can do so here.
But what's interesting,
without doing it in front of the client.
The reason it didn't connect is because that freight carrier
upright.
Stood that piece of sofa upright when they're not supposed to. And so they had it shipped sitting on the metal bracket. So it's, yeah.
We've outfitted our truck and our trailer. We've actually, our truck is tall. It's 8 feet tall. We've actually created a shelving system. So our sofas and product can sit the way it's supposed to, with the arrows in the box pointing up, which are really pretty clear, that way. So we stand everything on its 4 feet. So when we deliver it, and these are the pictures that I've shared with our manufacturers to show, hey, I'm trying to help fix the problem here. And that's why I'm speaking with the president of this trucking company later today.
Because sofas are not supposed to be on their sides, that weight, and
you'll get puddling in the back because that fabric is really loose and it's just tension based. And I'm, again, learning terminology as we go.
I know. And what's interesting, so Scott and I moved cross country from New York back to California, and we used one of those ABF. We used one of those companies where you pack your semi and then they drive it across the country.
Foreshadowing.
And I was shocked when it got here. We hadn't properly wrapped our sofas, and I had 2 very expensive sofas, and they rubbed. And I was like, and that was my first introduction to, we don't think about the vibrations of these semi trucks as they're traveling. Mm-hmm. And if the things aren't properly packed the way that they should be on the freight side of it, that's where all the damage is coming from.
So, Reisa, I want to address your question a little bit further. How else do we save time, money for our clients? I'm going to go back to that.
Yeah.
We've happened to create a bunch of affiliate partnerships. We have a master craftsman, Tim Arthur from Arthur Millworks. He does beautiful woodwork. He comes to our warehouse once a week, and he looks at all the damaged wood products we have, and then he sends estimates direct to our clients. Yeah. I am just simply forging relationships. Yeah. There's no markup here. It's a pass-through expense. The client gets to work directly with him. In turn, they take his estimate and they deliver it off to the manufacturer, who is more, 99% of the time just paying that versus sending out a new piece of product.
Okay.
I have an upholstery company. They come out and do repairs of upholstery, again, also on the spot here. And we have a third company that we work with who do stain removal on upholstery as well. And they also do protective layering if you guys want that. That's a whole other.
So who's responsible for that then? Does the manufacturer pay you back for that? Or that's you have to build that out to the designer?
That's part of the claim process. So when the designer is filing a claim, we'll furnish the estimate. That estimate then goes to the client. The client transfers that with all of the pictures and everything else, stating that when they're filling out their claim forms, and then the manufacturer will 99% of the time approve the estimate from the third party, and then the third party will complete the work here in my warehouse. So we don't have to move it again. They're coming to us. And we have these resources, so it's full service. It's full stop shop, right? Okay. You guys, if there's damage here, the only thing I haven't found a fix to yet is metal products. So I'm still searching for someone to do that. But if it's upholstery or wood, which is a vast majority of what you folks do, we just handle it all here in-house.
But the designer has to chase the issue with their manufacturer. He doesn't interface with the people we're ordering from. No. He'll deal with getting it fixed in the warehouse. And do you just let the designer pay them directly?
Yeah, the designer will pay the third party directly. Okay. Again, I'm just introducing relationships.
Okay.
To Leila's point, we don't deal with any of the claims. We give you whatever information you need to go file a successful claim. I had a king headboard. There was some pieces of wood that were moving in and out. I told my client, it's gonna fall out. It's eventual. Whether it falls out when I move it there or when it's a happy day in that house, I guess. She's like, can you send me another picture of it? I actually sent her a video. I'm like, you're not gonna be able to see that it's moving with a still photo. So I sent the 10-second video of me just pushing on the piece, and then that solidified her claim.
Sweet. I just saw a comment that says most of the manufacturers do not pay for damages. They will make us put a claim through the shipping company. I don't, you know, we all work with different manufacturers. And for me as a designer, I not only align myself with the manufacturers that have the product and the price point and the right thing for us, but I align myself with the businesses that are going to support me. If I'm buying from a company who thinks they're washing their hands of it, I'm not buying from them anymore. So you guys have to make those decisions on your end. And I don't work with a single manufacturer that will not work with us on damages. I have never had to go to a freight company for damage.
The manufacturer will go to the freight company.
Interesting. And to your point, and I think we talked about this a little bit before, just in terms of the designer billing out to their client, do you think that the 15 to 20% like line item on an invoice is a good idea? Or what do you recommend now that you've seen this end of this?
He doesn't know how much things are.
I mean, I have no idea how much stuff is. Honestly, if you want to be accurate.
Do you want to know what we do?
We'll do.
Yes, I want to know what you do. Tell us.
So we don't mark up, I don't put a markup on freight and delivery or anything like that. And we are very transparent in our pricing. So when we take a furniture package and we put it together with our client and they approve it, here's what you are paying for the product.
Okay.
And you are then going to have freight costs, and then you are going to have the receiving costs. And whatever those are what we bill you for. I don't estimate a percentage.
Okay.
I know enough now. I know that a sofa is probably around 150, 60 bucks in freight. So we just don't have, I haven't had a problem with people. Okay, wait, let me back up for a second. Once we have that list together of items that the client is buying, we send it to Rightway, and Rightway gives us a quote. So I then can go back to the client and say, these 20 pieces of furniture that you're buying are going to have a freight cost, which is TBD. But here in my experience is about what I think you'll be paying. And here is the quote from Rightway. So before they agree to everything, they know most of their costs, and it works really well for us.
Got it. They're not like at the end of a project seeing this big like $10,000 number that comes out of nowhere. You're properly explaining the process. And that's actually where I think that even like if I had a relationship with Scott and Scott was my receiver, like working with you to make sure that I as a designer understand the process, putting together my one pager. Like I think a lot of designers have welcome packets. There's a lot of communication you have with your client, explaining the construction process. Susan Winterstein has shared her construction process with us in Ivy, the Facebook group. But actually going into depth, and I don't know, Scott, maybe this can be a side project of really working with you, somebody that understands the process, so that we can make it into a pretty graphic or a pretty one pager for our designers, our clients. That would make such a difference. And then I really truly understand and believe that it would simplify the process for the client, and they would feel more in control, actually seeing that invoice from Rightway Receiving, knowing exactly what it is. I never had the luxury for my receiver. It was a very like not professional looking invoice, you know, it was like scrapped together. It was like $75 here, $35 here. It wasn't organized. Wasn't thorough. So I never felt comfortable showing that to a client. So that's why we just were estimating like that percentage, but I like that better. And I like being transparent. I think that makes sense.
You guys furnish the creatives. I'll give you the input to help make it all.
Okay, good. No problem.
One thing I do want to say though is like, you know, in the estimates that we provide, and you designers should ask this of your receivers as well. We have a spreadsheet, it's an order form. And this is where Ivy comes in. You know, the information that I ask in our order form, you have already in Ivy if you're using the tool appropriately and effectively. So I'll let Reisa deal with you on that one.
Oh, there's
but when you fill out the order form that I receive, it's literally a list every product that's going to be delivered our way, and then you'll see, you just scroll over to the right, and here's the price for that specific product. Here's the receiving and inspecting fee. Here's the assembly and installation fee. So you guys can break it down. Every product that comes in, you'll have a very clear price. So this sofa is going to cost me X. This coffee table is going to cost Y. Versus receiving one lump sum of, here's the $8,400 bill for what?
I will say he's trying to make this as like user friendly as possible, and he's getting some pushback from some designers who don't want to fill out the form. Yeah. Like designers, you got to take the time to take care of your own business. And if you want your team to give you the services that you need, then you have to do your part. You don't get to just send him 20 order forms from your manufacturers and expect him to take the time to fill out the form. Like, you got to do your part.
Well, here's the other thing. If you don't take the time to fill out the form that I have or your receivers have, we receive product here. I mean, since I've been in business and it's been just a couple of months, I've checked in over 700 pieces of furniture.
Wow.
If you don't give me a SKU or your name or your client's name, I can't tell you how many times I've actually had to call the shipping company or the manufacturer to say, hey, I have this PO, but I have no idea whose it is. So your stuff's going to get lost.
And this is important. That was actually leading into my next question, was what can the designer do? You're one step ahead of me, to make your life easier and to make this a night, because in the Facebook group especially, we see a lot of like, oh, this or this. It's your business. You need to take control of your business 150%, right? Like, not everybody's going to be as fortunate until you launch Right Way Receiving all across the country to have the relationship that you have with Leyla and your designers. And I don't think every receiver is going to be, I mean, hopefully in due time we will have this, but the technology that you have, like, I used to have to follow up with my receiver all the time. I would send this like organized Excel spreadsheet with the picture. I never got the kind of thing where I could just log in, I could check on it. It was always a time suck. And I think if designers really want to help move the needle and help change this industry, not be so antiquated, they need to do their part. So one step for you would be filling out the form. Let's say that it's not you and it's another receiver, for example, but it doesn't matter. Give as much information as you can give to your receiver so that you're not in the situation like where you're calling and you're freaking out and it's your install day and you don't know where your furniture is.
Yeah, I mean, and again, my order form used to have probably 4 more questions on it. I've skipped it back. I'm like, you know what? I don't need that information.
Okay.
Like, I could do without it. Again, it's simplicity, and that even comes, everything we try to do here is how can I make your guys' lives easier? But so in order to do that, I need the bare minimum information so I can still be effective and do my job.
Yeah. Totally.
Who's the manufacturer? What's the product name or SKU? The description of it, if it's not self-explanatory by the name. And then I do ask for weight and dimension. So I think, all of that's in Ivy. Right. And
exactly. You can just download that FF&E schedule or even download it as an Excel. You're already doing the work. And if there's extra information that you need, you can just drop it into an Excel, add that extra column. Maybe weight and dimension isn't there, or just get used to when you're speccing the product of speccing the extra information, knowing that you're going to need it.
And here's why, because when I look at something, I understand how big of a piece it is or how heavy it is. It helps me understand, okay, I don't need 2 guys for that. That's a one-man job. You just save yourself some money because my estimate probably would have been higher. I know which vehicle I'm actually going to use based on, the size of the products that are coming in. Another answer to your question, Reisa, is some designers will actually use other designers' trade accounts. This is prevalent in Ivy, right? If you're doing so, you better make crystal clear, who that client is that's receiving that product, because it might come to me for designer A, but it's actually designer C's client who's supposed to be receiving it. I might go check it in under the original designer. Yeah. Now your stuff's getting lost. It's getting delayed. It's somewhere in my warehouse. We're pretty diligent, but it will save us time and save you guys time as well.
And I could even take it a step further. This kind of goes back to our original webinar where it was talking about scaling our businesses and stuff. Designers, cultivate the relationships with the people that you're using. Our receivers, they're a part of our team, just like our contractors, just like my handyman, just like my sales reps. You need all of these people to build your business, and you develop those relationships and you treat people well and you treat them with kindness. And at Christmas time, send them a gift. If they do some really awesome install and it took their whole team and it was huge, send them a gift card for lunch. I see some of these comments on the Facebook thing, and my first thought is you're not developing the relationships. Things are going sideways with the people that you're bringing into your business because, yes, some people are just jerks and they shouldn't be a part of your business, and it might take you a little while to go through them, but you need to really cultivate the personal relationships and bring those people around your team.
100.
And the term partnership that I talked about, you'll see it if you guys end up working with us or writing to us. Like I use that is a term in my emails, in my estimates and contracts. We want to partner with you. Like I don't want to be just some service end. You're taking and allowing us to go into your clients' homes, holding their personal belongings. That's pretty powerful, right? Like, and we want to make sure that we carry that through. You know, you guys are a luxury product. You're a luxury service. You want to carry through your brand all the way into the home. And we want to make sure that we do that for you guys as well.
That's totally breaking it down just in terms of like, because I see a couple questions about this, but in terms of how you price out items, and obviously you said like no two consoles are alike, but there was something that asked like, why are area rugs so expensive? Because if you think about an area rug, to me, you're just rolling it out. But what is it, and that's not what it is.
You brought that up exactly.
Yes, because he was telling me how much. I'm like, why is a rug that much? And then I realized because Whitney's got him moving the rug 57 times, 2 inches here and 4 inches there, and I'm like, oh.
Without fail, we will roll down a rug, put all the furniture on it, and then be asked to move the rug 6 inches. Fact. Happens every time.
And I know we do that.
And we move it, and you know, sometimes you can move with the furniture on, sometimes you can't, so you got to move the furniture off. So we just cover our costs upright, knowing that, hey, we're going to put down a pad, and we just put the pads. If you're going to put a rug pad down, that's included in that fee. But yeah, we cover ourselves for the fact that we're going to have to move it inch by inch until it's in the exact spot for the creative, and that's totally fine. We're happy and willing to do that. But that's $45 install fee.
And we talk about this like last night. We're on the couch and he's putting a quote together, and he's like, "What's a sham? It's a pillowcase, babe." And I'm like, I don't think. He's like, "Do I need to install it?" I'm like, "I'm pretty sure they don't want you to make the bed."
That's a sham in of itself. You definitely don't want me making a bed.
It's just really, it's funny now because he comes home saying things like, "Wow, I opened the nicest piece of furniture today," and I'm like, "Who are you?"
It changes your perspective. I think, what's good takeaways, and I'm seeing like a lot of people ask questions like, we wish you were in our area. And obviously we know you're not there yet. So in the meantime, for our community, for our Ivy community, what could you recommend that a designer looks for in a receiving and delivery company?
First, and I think I mentioned this in the community last week, go to your receiver's warehouse.
Yes, tour it.
I had, Molly Aaron Designs here last week. She came out and did a tour. And tour takes 10 minutes, right? I mean, there's nothing luxurious about it, but you get to see how we're set up. We talk through the process. We answer the questions. And she learned things. She's like, "Oh, so you guys will accept tile?" I'm like, "Yeah, there's a pack of tile right up here. It's 780 pounds. We need a forklift to get it off." And it's like, you'll use a delivery service and they're going to charge you $60 just to use the lift gate. So when we're saying, oh, it's going to cost you X, it's like, if we think about everything in whole, go to check out your receiver, ask for transparent pricing. Like, you should know what you're paying per item. Okay. There's no reason why you shouldn't.
And understand if there's a fluctuation.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, there could be variations. One of our questions now, especially going up into Truckee, is how many flights of stairs am I going up? I've had to go up 3 flights of stairs against the back of a house with some god-awful heavy stuff, right? There might be some increased fees and charges for stuff like that.
Yesterday, I called him and I thought he would be done, and he's like huffing and puffing. He's like, "I got to call you back." They got to the house. They couldn't pull their 26-foot truck up the driveway. They had to leave it at the bottom of the hill and carry 25 pieces of heavy furniture up.
Oh, no.
So it's also being transparent with your receiving company about what the space that they're delivering into, how many steps of stairs, how big the entryway is. I mean, I've seen slabs carried through with a forklift, like through the window, of like telling your receiver in advance what that situation actually looks like, so that when you get there, there's not like, oh, well, we didn't account for this, and now there's a big fluctuation in the bill.
Absolutely. Ask for photos of your products if you guys are getting them or not. And they might not have the technology that we have. That's fine. Have them put it in email. Before I implemented our software, we use Dropbox. I created a link. It's free for you guys. I just sent you a link, and it says, here's the photos. It holds us accountable to deliver and show you guys that, hey, we're actually inspecting, because I'd argue that a lot of receivers roll the dice on whether they're actually opening and inspecting or not because of the fees that I hear some of you folks are paying. It's like, well, I'm going the economy route. I'm like, there is no economy route. You open it and look at it, or you don't.
Yeah.
And yes, we might have, and a lot of the manufacturers like, you guys have a lot of damage at your place. I go, because we're detailed.
They're catching it.
I go, we're looking at everything. I had a box of 52 or 72 pillows came in, and I literally found one smudge on the corner of a pillow. It's like, that's the extent. Hey, you guys can file for the claim or not, but I want to make sure that you guys have all the information possible. But you can only do so by transferring, photos and information.
And I've told him, like, on his end of things, once they do an install, I want him to walk through with that designer and get a sign off on every piece of furniture. We had an install, and this was before Right Way, and we put a coffee table in a house, and everybody had said they did their job. 60 days later, 2 months later, the client called, and this is a wonderful client who we have a great relationship with, and she said, hey, the table had a metal base that kind of sat recessed. And she said, hey, I just noticed that the bottom of my table's dented. And I was like, it's been in your house for 2 months. Like, you could have done that with a vacuum. You've had multiple parties, and luckily, we ended it well. It was not a problem, but I said, you need to protect yourself so that you're not getting those calls when somebody's been living with a piece of furniture for 2 months and trying to pin it on you, because your manufacturer is going to laugh in your face if 60 days later they're trying to return it. So I want him to walk through and get a sign off. Then the designer has to acknowledge everything is in perfect order.
And read the terms and conditions, Reisa, because and it's something that as I'm going, I'm experimenting with. You might find fees from your receiver for excessive weight. Yeah, listen, if we get something that's 300 pounds, it's going to take several people. There might be an incremental charge. We were talking about Wayfair items and CB2 stuff earlier. You might think you're saving money on the front end because it's less expensive, but then you're going to be charged with potentially increased install fees, because that doesn't fall under the standard assembly that a receiving house is typically going to charge. So understand what all of those things are, and it's likely going to be in your fine print.
Got it. And somebody was asking earlier, and I thought it was an interesting question, is what do you do if there's damages caused by your employee?
Fire the employee.
No.
Totally kidding.
You haven't had that happen yet, have you?
On an install, we damaged one piece of furniture, yes, and then we brought it back, and we had our master woodsman, Tim Arthur Millworks, I was mentioning earlier, fix it and repair it. I ate the cost. We were transparent. We said, hey, sorry, as we were moving this in, we knocked this over and this broke. And the guy actually said, he's like, I think my kids probably broke it, so don't worry about it. And I wasn't happy with that. So we took it, we fixed it, and then we brought it back free of charge.
Got it. And what if the interior designer, I mean, it's interesting to think, I never thought about this, but on the flip side, if it was Leyla, like one of your employees that was moving something around, and I mean, I know the answer here is like, don't let your team like move furniture, that's why you hire the R&D team. But let's say one of your employees messed up or knocked a table or something, then would you incur the fee to fix it as the designer?
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to everybody needs to be responsible for themselves. And, if we cause something, then we will most definitely fix it. Like, we're human. People make mistakes, and everyone in our firm knows I don't freak out over mistakes. Like, it's just going to happen. And I always say, especially like in the construction end of it, it's not if a mistake happens, it's when. And as long as you have the proper tools and the team around you to get to the solution, everything can always be fixed.
Yeah.
And I feel fortunate, Reisa, all the clients I work with are awesome. Yeah. I mean, we show up on the job site, and I think it's unrealistic that the designers aren't going to do some of the work while we're there. I mean, my client yesterday, she was screwing legs on the sofa. They were putting film on the bottom of chairs. So it's like, it's kind of an all hands on deck team effort. People just understand their roles and their parts. And you know what? If the designer damages it, like I said, I have those teams to help, fix it on the spot.
And I think one of the key takeaways that you've said to me that's kind of an aha moment is touring your receiving delivery, like that, all of your important stuff is going to this warehouse. Tour the warehouse, get to know the team you're working with, so on, and get to know the guys that work there, even if it's not always going to be you coming. Get to know the people, build the relationship, tip the guys some extra money when they get there. You can bill that out to your clients if you really need to, but building that relationships. I think everything in this business really boils back down. is your receiver and the person that's touching the merchandise that's coming into your client's home. And I think that was like a really good aha moment to just think, oh, like that's so silly. Like we never thought about that. And it's a little change that you can make to really make the process so much smoother for you on install day. Yep. And I know I saw another question come in about that. And I think that if you're going to market and you're buying trade only product, which is what we obviously as a whole, we recommend, and you're building relationships with your vendors, like Leyla said, like don't try to do even if you are ordering from Wayfair and this kind of stuff, like I recommend sending everything to a receiver, because at the end of the day, the time it takes you to get the package and it's going to come in this crate, it's going to be a nightmare, because I've tried it. We've all tried it. And it's just a much smarter piece for your business to send everything to a receiver, no matter where you're ordering from. Maybe if it's one sham, okay, so you can send it to your own house and bring your own office and bring it to your client. But even if it's a chair, just make it easier.
That instance is actually a designer who lives in another state and they have a Bay Area job. So I think for the most part, if you're ordering bedding from Polyperm, send it to yourself.
Awesome. Well, I think we're going to wrap up here. We're just at 11 o'clock. And thank you everybody for joining us. We really appreciate it. We had so much fun learning about all of the nitty gritty, receiving, freight, logistics, all of the stuff that we'd never want to talk about. And definitely, if you have questions, feel free to ask them in the Facebook group. And we really appreciate your time. Yeah. And thanks again, Scott and Leyla, for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Bye, guys.